So, something I come across a lot in my never ending quest to win every argument I get in on Twitter is the topic of the left's influence in academia. A lot of online leftists will downplay or outright lie about the influence that the left has in academia, and it's a claim that can be very difficult to definitively prove since I don't have access to the mind of every educator in the country. But for anybody who has actually been paying attention, it's pretty obvious that this is true. Leftists will give you all kinds of excuses like, oh, that's just one teacher, that's not proof of a widespread trend. And most of the time, it's pointless to really argue with them because they're just going to deny every example you give as an anecdote. And the worst part is, I think a lot of these people know that they're lying. And that's what makes this so insidious. But something happened the other day in Canada that I think perfectly encapsulates the ideological capture of many of our academic institutions. It's something that even leftists will have a hard time explaining away. On January 17th, the Waterloo Region School Board had a virtual meeting, and one of the items of discussion was a book that had been assigned to children for a Trans Visibility Week. And one board member, Carolyn Brzezinski or something like that, had concerns about the carefree attitude that the material had towards medical transition and puberty blockers. And she tried to raise these concerns in the meeting, but was promptly shut down for being transphobic. Luckily for us, this entire exchange was recorded, so we can see exactly how this shit went down. So I really hope you're sitting down in a chair and that you have a stress ball or something to release tension with available, because what you're about to see is going to be really weird and it might piss you off. It definitely made me feel some kind of way.
A recent Record article reported on the school board's intent to cull both the libraries and teachers' personal collections of books deemed harmful. This culling was already underway at the time the article was written, yet the board could not answer the reporter's request for the criteria being used, nor how the team was chosen. No information was shared with teachers about the philosophy by which our personal collections would be judged. In the same article, a senior leader said he was proud of the new diverse books that the board had already purchased. On November 8th, we received a memo in which the board listed criteria for removing books. For example, a book that is misleading might be removed. Well, that sounds perfectly reasonable. A case could be made that some of your new diverse materials are indeed misleading. We teachers received a long list of books and resources for Transgender Awareness Week. Some of these books are a positive addition because they show diverse families and represent a variety of ethnicities. However, I am very concerned that some of the resources in our elementary school libraries are inappropriate for young children. The resources that I am now showing are all in K-6 libraries. In the book Rick by Alex Gino, a boy named Jeff keeps talking to Rick about naked girls. Rick is confused because he doesn't think about naked girls, so he wonders if something's wrong with him. Rick gets invited to the school's Rainbow Club, and he ends up declaring an asexual identity. While reading this book, I was thinking, maybe Rick doesn't have sexual feelings yet because he is a child. It concerns me that this book leaves young boys wondering if there is something wrong with them if they aren't thinking about naked girls all the time. Well, so what message does this book send to young girls who might be in grade 3, 4? They are children. Let them grow up in their own time and stop pressuring them to be sexual so soon. In fact, some of the books filling our libraries make it seem simple or even cool to take puberty blockers and opposite sex hormones. The Other Boy by M.G. Hennessy.
Ms. Brzezinski, I'm just getting a little concerned that your content may be problematic. I'm not sure exactly where you're headed, but I would caution you to make sure that you are not saying anything that would violate the Human Rights Code.
Oh, I'm not saying anything that would violate.
I'm just concerned, so please continue. That will not count against your time.
I hope that that I can be heard because these are misleading books, and I'd like to tell you why. The other book by M.G. Hennessy chronicles the medical transition of Shane, who was born female and now identifies as a boy. Shane takes puberty blockers and is now excited to start testosterone. The doctor states that this hormone mixture will leave Shane infertile in the future. Shane's response is, "It's cool," a very typical adolescent response. This book is misleading because it does not take into account how Shane might feel later in life about being infertile. This book makes very serious medical interventions seem like an easy cure for emotional and social distress. And remember,
so I'm going to have to
Point of order.
I'm going to point out that the Ontario Human Rights Code includes gender identity and gender expression as prohibited grounds for discrimination, and I'm concerned that your comments are in violation of that, so I'm ending the presentation.
No, you're not.
Point of order. I believe the delegation is talking about age appropriateness.
And I believe that it is a violation of our delegation policy.
Mr. Chair, also, that's a point of order. The delegation is sharing information that CENSORED is in our schools. I think that's a stretch to say violation of the Human Rights Code for her to share what is, I believe, unless the director thinks it's not factually correct that these books are in our school, I think the speaker should be allowed to continue.
Yes.
So there is a process for challenging the ruling of the chair. If either of you wish to do that, we will put it to a vote.
If you want to watch the rest of that video, you can find it on YouTube. It's in a couple different places, but TLDR, they voted against her and shut down the entire presentation. So what you just watched was literally speech being suppressed for being wrongthink. Like literally you just saw it in front of your face. Now I really would like to see a leftist try to actually defend this. There's no way any leftist content creator is gonna touch this story because there's no defense for this. There's no way you can justify teaching children, kindergarten through 6th grade age, that puberty blockers are cool and that being infertile is no big deal. There's no way that they're old enough to make that decision. Leftist YouTube is just gonna completely ignore this shit. You already know they're not gonna talk about it because that's what they do. That's the play. Anything that doesn't advance their agenda, they're just gonna ignore it. That's what they do every fucking time, all the time. So this is what's going on in Canada, and the US is most certainly on the same path. There are already a lot of leftist teachers in public schools and in academia in general. I think what happens is a lot of people get poli-sci degrees or like gender studies degrees, and then when they graduate, they can't get a real job, so they go and teach children, and they think, well, I'll teach the children the weird shit that I was taught in my social justice classes. So if you're a normal person and that video concerned you and you're wondering why you have never heard about any of this type of stuff, it's because the mainstream media is not going to talk about this because they are kind of in on it. They're okay with this. Like, they probably don't know everything that's going on, but they have chosen what side they're on and they're going to ride or die for them. So the idea behind this agenda is that parents are not good enough to raise children anymore. The idea is that children must be taught by teachers, and to hell with what the parents or anybody else thinks about it. Like, they're gonna teach your kids what they think your kids need to know, and you don't get to object to any of it because they have a lot of power now, unfortunately. Don't let anybody tell you that this is a conspiracy theory, because for one, it's not a theory and it is a conspiracy. It's a bunch of leftist educators and academics deciding that because they have a lot of power in academia, they can collectively come together and shape how children will be taught in the future to fit their political aims. Like, that's literally the whole thing. And I'm not just making that up. As I was making this video, another really insane clip dropped where this woman just gave away the whole game. Like, you'd think they would maybe try to hide the agenda, but they're pretty out in the open about it. Take a look at this.
We have never invested as much in public education as we should have because we've always had kind of a private notion of children. Your kid is yours and totally your responsibility. We haven't had a very collective notion of these are our children. So part of it is we have to break through our kind of private idea that kids belong to their parents.
We have to break through our kind of private idea that kids belong to their parents.
Or kids belong to their families and recognize that kids belong to whole communities. Once it's everybody's responsibility and not just the households, then we start making better investments.
Just listen to them. They're telling you straight up what the plan is. They're saying that they are better for your kids than you are. Your kids are going to learn what they think your kids should know. Your values? Fuck them. Your values suck. We're going to teach your kids that they can take puberty blockers and get their breast chopped off at the age of 15, and that nothing bad is going to happen from that, and nobody's going to regret it, and everything is going to be honky-dory, a bunch of fucking smiles. This shit is insane, man. This shit is insane. If you have kids, you probably should homeschool them because public schools are not safe. Public schools are not safe. There are a lot of fucking weird-ass leftists. If you see somebody with a dyke cut or some blue hair, you don't want that person teaching your kid because they're probably out of their goddamn minds. And that's the end of this video. If you actually got some valuable information out of this, feel free to like and subscribe and leave a comment and follow me on Twitter. It's really important for us normal people who are not completely fucking lost to the abyss to support each other, because a lot of this stuff is being signal boosted by literal children and maniacs on the internet. And normal people, we do like regular shit. Like, we have lives. We live normal lives, and normal lives do not really involve being on the internet and trying to fucking yell and scream at people all the time. So we don't really come together as much. But if we want to have any chance of undoing the damage that has been done to academia and our systems of education, we have to start supporting each other. And I have already decided that this is a fight that I'm willing to fight because I have principles, unlike most people in the political sphere. I'm doing this just because I think what's happening is wrong. And if you want me to succeed, the best thing you can do is to subscribe to the channel and to follow me on Twitter. The way Twitter works is people only care about you if you have a certain amount of followers. So just boost my numbers up or whatever so that people can't ignore me anymore. Because if I get up into the stratosphere and have to debate some of these top lefty content creators, I guarantee you I'm going to make them look stupid. I'm going to do my damnedest to make them look stupid and to make them explain the bullshit that they're trying to push on the next generation and on the rest of the world. So yeah, if you like the content, you know, subscribe or whatever. Do the thing. You know what to do.